We now continue with Smurf.
I don't really know how to type this out without a lot of irrelevant information you guys don't really care about and will make me seem like I'm overcompensating for something. Back in 2020, I experienced something that I cannot really explain in my home state of Maine while driving. It's something I have bottled up for a long time because I just didn't have any outlet to deal with it, and I had no answers at all. You guys probably won't believe me, but I want to get it off of my chest anyway. So, I grew up in northern Maine, but I moved out of state for job opportunities when I was 18 years old because the small town that I grew up in really did not have a lot going for it. Your only options are to do some menial work in a shop, work for a family business or farm, which I was not fortunate enough to have as an option, or get the hell out of there and move somewhere normal and with an actual quality of life. I ended up moving halfway across the country, and it went like this for a while. Anyway, I was between jobs, and I agreed to head back and visit my parents since it had been a while. They wanted me to relax for a while, offered to feed me free of charge, and I did still have some friends who stayed either in the town or nearby. We had a mini family gathering of sorts, and I saw a lot of family members I had not seen since I was a kid. Anyway, pandemic hit, yada yada. You know how that went, which meant I couldn't really do much but stay put for a while. I stayed there for a good half a year before saying screw the stupid rules and moving on with my life. In that time, I was hanging out with my friend Rod a lot. We were childhood friends. He worked on his parents' nearby ranch, and yeah, I guess he was just content with small-time stuff. When we met back up, it was like we had never stopped hanging out. Our favorite thing to do was go driving around nearby and even far-off areas. There was not much else we could do because of restrictions, and a lot of things being closed off, so we would just drive for hours, sometimes late into the night. The day this happened was no different. It was around 7 or 8 p.m., and it was starting to get dark in the sky. We were zooming down some roads. I think by this point we were on the Golden Road, but I can't remember exactly what part of it. It's so long and 99% of it looks the exact same. At around a certain point, I think it was around when I had to switch on my headlights because of the darkness, I started to feel really weird. It sticks out in my memory because I hit the stalk to turn on the headlights, and there was this kind of delay. I remember hitting it, a few seconds going by, and then seeing them flash really slowly, almost as if they were slowed down. It's weird because I was going pretty fast at this point, well over the speed limit like a moron, but it did not feel like we were going fast. 1 second I have this adrenaline rush from the speed that I can feel, and the next second that feeling is gone and everything just feels, I don't know, slow. I remember turning over to Rod and saying something to him that I can't remember, and when I did, he stayed staring out the windshield for a second before ever so slowly turning his head towards me and then finally speaking. But when he spoke, all of a sudden, the feeling of the speed of the car came back to me and everything felt normal again. I just tried to shrug it off. I remember there was forest on both sides of us just flying past, and I could feel the wind smacking my face at high speed. I felt so free. And then I suddenly get hit with this flash of blue light. It hits my left eye and all I can see is blue, and it's like pulsing ever so slowly, and my head is starting to hurt. I remember in this moment everything just slowed down again. This blue light is still hitting my eye. I am trying to say something to Rod, but he is not responding. He is just holding his face. The car is moving slowly. I can see it moving like an inch at a time. I remember trying to hit the brakes with everything I had, but we were still just inching forward every couple of seconds. And then I hear this pop and a release of air, and then I hear metal scraping. And in that moment when I heard the pop, it was like time sped up, and everything happened so quickly all at once, like a tape sped up. We both got thrown forwards as we came to a screeching stop, and Rod got mad and asked me what the hell I was doing, hitting the brakes that violently and driving like a madman. I told him, and I asked him if he saw the blue light, and he was like, "What? What are you talking about? We were driving normally and you just stopped." I was like, "Bro, you didn't hear the tire just go, you didn't just hear it pop." And he told me he did not. We both got out of the car and took a look at the tire. The tire had just burst inexplicably near the top. I had no explanation for it. It looked like it had been inflated too far like a balloon and just given in, but I knew my tire pressure should have been fine. We were screwed. Neither of us had any cell signal on this stretch, and we were miles away from anywhere. Our only option was looking like one of us walking miles to a gas station to call my dad or a recovery service. We were in luck though, or at least I thought we were at the time. There was another car pulled up on this road just ahead of us. It did not look broken down, had no lights or hazards on. I figured this dude had stopped to take a nap or something. I told Rod that we should shout out as to not surprise him and see if he can get any signal. Some mobile plans are a little better than others, and you never know with the shit service in this part of the state. He was apprehensive. He told me that he was sketched out. He was like, "Dude, that car door looks like it isn't fully shut. It looks like someone did not close it properly." I took a look and, man, he was right about that, and it was weird, but I mean, hey, maybe the dude was just tired and made a mistake, had to stop quickly for a nap or whatever. I said there were two of us, and from what I could see, there was only one person sitting in the seat. No way he can take both of us. Rod felt a little reassured by that, and so we walked up to the car. About halfway up the road, I was shouting something like, "Hey, buddy, sorry to bother you if you're sleeping, but we just broke down. Any chance your signal out here is working? Ours is terrible." And we did not get a response, so we stopped midway there, because I was not planning on making someone shoot me out of fright. I tried saying the same thing again, thinking he had not heard me, but when I got no response again, I was suddenly worried. I was worried that maybe there had been an accident of some kind and something was wrong with the guy. Maybe he was hurt or something like that. I could clearly see some kind of silhouette sitting in the front passenger seat. Odd that he wasn't sitting in the driver's seat. In that moment, I thought maybe they were stuck in the same situation as us. Rod and I crept a little bit closer, and as we did, that's when I started hearing something strange that had my adrenaline racing. I could hear some kind of mechanical noise, a kind of humming or clicking or ticking, something like that. And then I could hear someone choking or gagging on something, but slightly muffled, like there was something over their face, like their mouth was closed or being covered. Rod must have thought the same thing, because we both started running and ripped open the back door, thinking someone in the back was choking on their own vomit or tongue or I don't know what. Maybe it was a drunk driver. I just thought that someone might be dying. I didn't really have time to stop and consider all the possibilities. But that isn't what we saw. I don't know. I don't even know what we saw. I must have gone over it in my head a million times, and I still could not really tell you for sure. There was a man laying across the back seats, his head slumped slightly up against the door on the other side, his feet pointing towards us. And he had something over his head. It looked like a mask or one of those heads for the suits that you would see at Disneyland. But this one looked to be made of rubber or something and was just so realistic. It had these big and shiny black eyes that were almost like an oval. They reflected light. That's how realistic they were. They looked shiny and almost wet, kind of. I'd never seen such a realistic mask before. And the rubber where it connects to the head. Man, it was so realistic. It almost looked like it was part of the man's own body. I would have been fooled if not for the vastly different color. The color of this mask thing or whatever was this really washed out sand kind of color. It looked tight too. It looked restrictive and almost like it might hurt or be cutting off air. The guy is laying there with this on, and he is twitching and writhing and squirming. He looked like he was having a seizure while trying to do the worm at the same time, except backwards while on his back. This mask is big too. It's like twice the size of my head, but it almost looks, I don't know, vacuum sealed around this guy. The mask just looks compressed and flattened, and I don't know how to make that make sense to you. It's his neck though that really caught my attention. There are these weird marks all over it. I can't really tell what they are, but they do not look like birthmarks. They look like that thing that swimmers do on their backs, but a lot smaller and dotted all around. The veins around the neck are really bulging out and looked strained. It looked like they could pop at any minute. And his throat, okay, don't make this weird, but there was something almost pumping down it. It's like he is swallowing something, but forcefully, like he is being force-fed something liquid. I can hear the horrible choking sounds he is making. All of this happened so quickly. We stood there for a minute or two, and I know it seems like a lot to remember in such a short amount of time, but I have tried to forget. I have had a long time with my thoughts, gone over it again and again in therapy. That's why so much of it still sticks out so clearly to me. I start to feel this tapping on my shoulder, and the hand is incredibly cold. So I pull my arm away and tell Rod to knock it off because this was serious, and in a split second, I shit my pants and jump back. The hand actually grabbed me and tried to yank me into the car, but it could not. And all it did was rip and stretch my shirt slightly. I ran a few paces behind, while Rod fell flat on his ass a few paces closer to the car than me. Because it was not Rod who was tapping me. He did not even need to say anything. There was something in the front of the car. It opened up the car door in the front where this thing was sitting, and this thing, when it got out, it was massive. It had to duck down and bend over so far. It was the same color as the mask on the man in the back. This thing was towering over both of us and must have been around 6 feet or more. I know you won't believe me, but this thing had no head. I swear it was just a body, arms and legs, but there was no head. The body proportions were nothing like a human. It did not have a neck. It had these prong-like things sticking up out of some kind of hole, but they did not look metal. They looked like skin, flesh, and blood. Rod was closer than me and was close enough to touch this thing. I shouted at him to run, even though I was glued to the spot myself. But the second he went to get to his feet, I saw this blur of movement, and then I heard him scream, and all I could see was his ankle bent at a horrible angle. It looked absolutely messed up. It looked snapped and twisted. The movement, it was just a blur. Like I blinked and saw the movement of color, and then everything was normal. But it looked like this thing did it. I saw that same washed out color for a split second, almost flicker, and then Rod was screaming. My legs were like jelly, but I forced myself to run back to my car. We hit a shitty 22 in there, and I was hoping it would be just enough. I heard a car door open and then slam as I ran off, and by the time I had grabbed it and turned back around, this thing was... It was holding the mask that the man inside the vehicle was wearing. Only now, I could see that it was not a mask. There was a hole in the bottom of it, and those same prong-like things that was on this thing's neck, and it being the same color. I could only assume the worst. I could only assume that it was this thing's head. I didn't think. I just started firing while Rod was trying to shuffle his way backwards. I am lousy with a weapon. My parents never taught me. But this thing was big enough that hitting it in the body was not too hard. But the bullets, I'm really not sure what happened. I hit this thing, I was sure of it. I was aiming right at it, but I did not see any impacts. I did not see any blood or much of anything come out of this thing. I did not even see any wounds or anything to suggest I hit it, and it did not react. I was just screaming while firing and shouting at Rod to get away. But in the moment between me firing and screaming and the next, I just saw a blur of movement again, and all of a sudden, this thing was just crouched in front of Rod. It had its head or whatever. It was just above him, and I saw it slam it down really hard, and I heard the squelch as it made contact. Rod immediately started clasping at his own throat, and I could tell he was gasping for air, but it was only a second before there was silence, and all I could hear was gurgling and choking as I saw he was being forced to swallow something. This thing, this head, this whatever, had gone from being massive and bulbous in the thing's hands to constricting and contorting to fit Rod's head, and it looked skin tight. I saw the veins on his neck start bulging outwards and throbbing really quickly, really aggressively. And then I saw Rod's head just hit the dirt, and he started convulsing. That is the only word that I have for it. I did not know what to do, so I did the only thing that I could think of in my panic. I ran up to Rod and grabbed his head to try and pull whatever this thing was off of his head. But the second I made contact with this thing, I fell backwards onto my ass, and I remember hearing this ringing right directly in my ears. My vision was so blurry and almost fading in and out. I had felt some kind of sudden and really painful electric shock enter my body. My fingers and toes had gone entirely numb. In fact, I remember I could not feel my entire left arm for the rest of that day. I was just sat on the floor, winded, and this thing just walks up to me, and I felt its ice-cold hands wrap around my throat. And without exerting any effort whatsoever, it just lifted me off of the ground and into the air by my neck. I was so far off of the ground, I was being held almost above where this thing's head would be. It was choking me. I could not breathe. I swear I saw flashes in my vision. I know they say that your life flashes before your eyes, but I never thought it was so literal. All I could imagine was being back home with my parents, hanging out with Rod, just doing stupid shit and not having to work. In that moment I had so much regret, and I almost did not mind the thought of a pandemic anymore. I was on the verge of passing out, and was using whatever little energy I had left to try and struggle, but it was not working, and I thought how stupid I was in that moment, because my .22 was still in my hand, and I never thought to use it. But I was so weak I could barely raise it. Like I said, I'm a lousy shot, and could not even hit this thing when it was so big. I had actually missed so badly that I hit Rod. I shot Rod in the face, only it hit whatever was on his head. Upon this happening, this thing immediately dropped me to the ground and went down onto all fours. This screech started coming out of the head placed onto Rod. I had to cover my ears reflexively because I felt this heavy pressure and it felt like they were about to burst. I know I'm a horrible friend. I know I betrayed him, but there was nothing I could do. I just ran to my car and hit the gas as hard as I could. In my panic, I had fucking forgotten that the tire was unsalvageable, and the sound that hit my ears when I hit the gas was almost as painful as the screech. It still went somehow, I don't even really understand how, but not very fast. All I could do was look ahead and hope. It was impossible to control. My car was veering all the way to the left, where the tire was popped, and I thought I was going to fishtail when I tried to up the speed. The car was moving at a snail's pace almost. I probably could have run faster than it moved. At this point, I did not care if I totaled my car. I just had to go. The thing didn't chase me or track me down or try to block my path. I don't know why. I thought I was done for, but I managed to make it the entire 1.5 miles to the nearest gas station in this heap of shit, all while calling the police. My car was totally messed up. It took me forever to get there. All I could blurt out down the phone was something about breaking down and my friend being attacked, and that I had to flee because they were armed. I thought if I told them that the guy had a weapon, they would get there quicker. Everything after this was just a whirlwind and a blur. Police eventually pulled up beside me. I sat there for what must have been a few hours, unable to move or even relax. They saw my car and asked me to explain again what happened. He told me not to worry, and that other officers had already gone out to the scene to find my friend. I just tried to simplify my story and say that some guy attacked us, but I guess I was not very convincing. I couldn't exactly say what I actually saw. He asked me to step out of the vehicle and come down to the station and give a formal statement. That asshole made me take a breathalyzer test, and it of course came up empty. I had never seen an officer look so shocked. He sat me down and basically told me that I had been in a traumatic crash and that my brain had filled in some blanks, but that it got it wrong. He said police went out to where I told them. No trace of my friend, no trace of the man in the back seat, no trace of that thing. The only thing they found was the car that was fully locked up. They ran the plates and found out that the vehicle was actually stolen and they were looking for the men who stole it. They asked me for a description of the man, but all I could think of was the most generic-looking white man in existence, and the officer just kind of gave me a blank look as I told him this. He asked me if I was sure that I was riding with my friend and not alone, and I don't know. I guess I just decided that playing along would be easier, and I was like, oh, no, my friend must have been in a different car ahead of me, huh. I had a waterfall of sweat pouring down my forehead at this point. He told me to go home and get some rest, and that they would be in contact if they caught the guy. I think I stayed home for another day or two before I gave my parents some excuse about how I could not put my life on hold for some silly flu and that I needed to put myself first. They looked sad, but they did not stop me. I headed out, and I have not been back there since. I always insist on meeting them somewhere nearby if I go and visit. I have no idea what I saw. I cannot explain what happened to me. I've tried to look for answers in places like this on other forums, but no one has ever described anything like what I saw. But man, I couldn't just stay there. I could not look Rod's mother in the eye and lie. I remember my mom texted me not long after I left and asked me if I had seen him recently, and I just had to tell her no. I know that a missing persons report was filed. I know his mom was distraught. It just hurt too much, and she would not believe me if I told her what I actually saw. Has anyone here ever seen or heard of anything like this? Hey, hope you've enjoyed the story so far. If you want to hear more, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment because it lets YouTube know you like the content and helps more people to see these videos. My next big goal for the channel is 100,000 subscribers, and as a celebration, I will be doing a Q&A video once we hit that goal. Thank you, and back to the stories. Hey guys, I don't normally post here except to poke fun at people and bump interesting threads, but something happened to me yesterday that I need to talk about. At the time this happened, I was living with my folks in town near Chicago. I was not a complete NEET yet. I was doing contract work as a network technician while studying at the local college. My mom works for a small telephone and internet company as a secretary. Small as in like 4 people small. I know the owner pretty well. He will often hire me for jobs. He's a pretty nice guy. I get a call on Tuesday. They're moving to a different office nearby and need some networking gear organized and put into new storage unit tomorrow. It's paid and I have nothing better to do since the pandemic is taking all of my work away, so I agree. The next day it's raining. I get a call and boss man suggests I wait for it to let up so the boxes do not get soaked. I wait for a while. The rain lets up a bit. I head out. I get there and start loading boxes into my mom's Ford since it's bigger than my car. I take them to the storage unit and get them nice and organized. The storage complex is between the highway and about an acre of forested area. I worked at UPS for 2 years. This is nothing. I make a few runs. The unit is looking nice. While partway through with my third run, the rain picks up like crazy. It had been raining all day, and we'd been getting flooding, but this was really heavy. I can't get the boxes from my car to the unit in this rain, so I get comfy inside the unit. I put on some jazz, don't judge me, and start working on fixing a MacBook for another client. I work for about 2 hours while I wait for the rain to clear up. It's pretty cozy actually. It just keeps getting worse. It's not very cold though, and only about 3 in the afternoon, so I'm fine hanging out. I finished with the Mac a while ago, and am now just chilling. Then I start hearing smashing from nearby. It sounds like something hitting metal. Maybe a car crash on the nearby highway? No, it's definitely coming from the other direction. I really do not want to go outside and get wet. Whatever. Some asshole probably just dropped something. This is a public area like 200 feet away from a busy highway. It's raining, but it's still the middle of the day, and I even saw other people earlier, so I have zero fear at this point. I keep on working. I keep hearing various banging noises. Man, I'm going to feel like a real idiot if I find out tomorrow that someone was hurt out there and I did not bother checking, is what I think in my head. So I say fine, I will go and check. The rain has let up a bit, but it is still pouring. I head outside. I round the corner looking for noise. I notice a massive hole in the fence leading to the little forest area. I see something white moving near a dumpster by the fence. I should be wearing glasses, but I lost them a month ago and have not bought new ones because I am poor. I try to zoom and enhance by squinting my eyes. I spend 1/100th of a second thinking, is that a big garbage bag underneath the dumpster? That is not a garbage bag. Garbage bags do not have arms. They don't click either. Now, let me make something clear. I've read Skinwalker and Innerwood stories on here for a long time, and I know all of the tropes. This had none of them. It was the middle of the day. I'm not in some deep forest or ancient tunnel or abandoned farmhouse. I am in the middle of a small town, and I can hear traffic on the highway just 300 feet away. I did not smell any rotting blood or stop hearing the wind or anything. I did not feel a sense of unease or nervous at all. This was not a setting I expected horror in. I am still not convinced I'm in danger. I am just confused. I try and get a closer look at the thing. I am maybe 150 feet away from it. I can see what looks like a bag of skin under there, but there is these massive white spikes poking up from under it. I keep hearing clicking noises. Hello? Who is that? I immediately regret yelling out. Why would I do that? This is the kind of thing I get mad at people in other green techs for doing. The typewriter garbage bag thing must have heard me. Something big squeezes out from underneath the dumpster. It's this massive pile of skin and spiky bits. It's at least 4 feet tall. It stands up, if you can call it that. It is now taller than me, at least 6'5". It looks like if you took a spider, reversed its body, made it pale white, and slapped big pointy arms on it. It has a pointy and angular body, kind of like a crayfish or spider, but clearly fleshy instead of hard, except for the tips of its arms and legs. The face is smooth and flat, except for a slit on each side of its head, and a recession at the bottom, full of little moving things. I did not get a good look. I think they looked like crayfish mouthparts. Even from where I am, I can tell it's covered in tons of scratches and bruises. The creature is clearly not happy. It doesn't seem to mind the rain, but every time there is thunder, it flinches hard. It also seems to be spitting up a large amount of water out of its mouth, I think. It looked like water anyway. I can hear it clicking even louder now. Not like a bat or a dolphin though. It sounded more like a typewriter or someone flicking a lighter. I start freaking out internally. This is not possible. I live in a decently sized city. There is no forest or swamps or deserts for whatever this is to be hiding in. The forest nearby is like an acre wide. You would be able to see through it if not for the little hill in the middle. It does not give a shit if it's possible. It is moving towards me. Thankfully, it does not seem very fast. I quickly think, I don't know what this is. I have no weapons, and my car is 100 feet away around the corner. I don't know how fast or dangerous this thing is either. I start slowly backing away, too scared to let it out of my sight. I am yelling progressively louder, hoping anyone will hear me. Hello? Hello, help. Anyone, help, please. It starts moving faster, clicking more rapidly. It moved kind of like a crab with the 6, I think, legs at the bottom, moving it around, while the 2 arm things were raised up like claws. I tried to move faster to get away, but I am still too terrified to turn away from it. I end up awkwardly backwards running into a concrete bollard and messing up my back. It's moving really quickly now. It's about 20 feet or so away from me. I am absolutely terrified, but I grab a loose piece of asphalt and get ready to try and smash it in the weird mouthparts. Suddenly, I hear a loud truck horn on the highway nearby. This thing starts flinching again. I take my chance to cower it out. I throw a rock at its head and miss really badly and haul ass away. I eventually reach the row of storage units that my car is in. I get in, start the engine, and peel the hell out of there. I go to get out of the storage complex. I have no time for code, so instead, I do something incredibly stupid. I hop out of my car, scale the fence, and start running across the busy highway into a graveyard. So this is where most of the excitement ends. Instead of turning into another green text, the graveyard was fine. I ran to the nearby church. A little parish office lady let me in and let me use her phone to call the police. Obviously, I didn't tell them I saw a skinned spider monster, but someone with guns needs to get in there ASAP. I tell them I saw a shifty-looking man waving a pistol around at the self-storage center. I waited at the chapel for one to arrive, and I thanked the old lady. The cop asked me some questions, and I just gave some vague answers. I did not need to lie about messing up my back by backing into a concrete bollard though. Apparently, the cops found nothing there. There was another guy in the storage area at the time who heard me scream, but was not able to find me before I ran out of there. I should mention, I had to go back there today. There was no rain, it was nice and sunny, But even though I reported an armed and dangerous homeless man to the police, my mom still wanted the work done. If I was not going to do it, she was, and I am not sending my own mother to go and get eaten by a typewriter skin spider, so I tell her I will go and finish the job. I do, and it was uneventful. I saw one cop there keeping a lookout who nearly jumped out of his skin when I said hello, but said nothing was wrong. I got out of there as soon as I was done, and I could. No, I'm not going to go and investigate the area. I'm not stupid. Theory time. It lives in a cave somewhere in that acre of forest. It's clearly flexible, seeing as despite being over 6 feet tall, it's able to squeeze under a dumpster that's probably only a few inches off the ground. Because of this, the entrance to its cave is probably only a couple of feet wide, small enough for people to miss. It never comes out because clearly, it's adapted to life underground, and if it were to come out, people would have seen it by now, considering how small the area is. During the heavy rain, I think probably its cave flooded, and it was forced to escape. That's most likely where it got all its cuts and bruises from. Once it got to the surface, it started trying to hide under something, hence the dumpster. Since it uses echolocation, it cannot detect anything very well in the rain, which is why it did not hear you until you yelled at it. As you were yelling for help, it could get a better and better sense of where you were, and so that's why it went faster. After the truck horn stunned it and you ran off, the sirens of the police probably scared it back into the forested area. How they didn't find it there if they checked is beyond me, but if the rain has stopped now and the water receded, then it's probably back in its cave now. So don't worry, Anon, you're probably safe. At least, for now, until it rains again.